I want to take the opportunity to thank the parents that came out on December 4th to view my presentation regarding rising 7th and 8th grade transition. For those of you that were not able to make it, I hope that you find the online version informative. And after viewing the presentation, if you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. You may do so by either calling the school directly or sending me an email. I would be happy to discuss any questions that you may have. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of what each grade level schedule will look like for next year, I wanted to take a moment to overview the process of scheduling. Please note that this is an estimated timeline. We have already begun making recommendations for the math and English courses for next year for our rising 7th and 8th graders. Today and tomorrow we will be visiting actually the sixth grade and the 7th grade PE and health classes to help students select the elective courses that they would like to take for next year. One of the things that's really important to building an efficient and effective schedule for students is to make sure that we have really accurate data in the computer, and our PE and health teachers have been very generous to allow us to come visit their classes, to take time to meet with the students, to go over the courses that they'll be offering next year. After we have students go in and select the courses that they wish to take for next year, we will, over winter break, go ahead and pre-slug some other required classes like health and PE and science and social studies. Once we have all of that data into the computer, we will send out a communication, hopefully both through email and through regular mail, about the classes that students will be taking next year. So that you all can see what your child is signed up for. Of course, anytime during this process, if you are concerned about the classes that your student is scheduled for, please reach out to the counseling department and we'll work with you to make sure that your student is signed up for the courses that are accurate for their needs. We are asking that all elective changes to course requests be completed before April 20th. So that is the deadline for that. In terms of course recommendations, please note that it's very early in the year and we're just asking for teachers to give us their initial thoughts on where students will be best placed. We will reevaluate this in the spring, and then we will also, after SOL tests, look at data to make sure that students are placed accurately in classes. If you're still not comfortable with those recommendations, please again reach out to the teacher, reach out to the counselor, and we'll work to make sure that the students are placed in the appropriate classes. We are always open to looking at core class placement for students, so there is no real deadline about when those class recommendations or those class requests are finalized. We will go into the summer and even into the beginning of next year to make sure that students are placed in their appropriate academic course. Our school board has 3 priorities: create a high culture of expectations for all, identify and remove practices that perpetuate the achievement gap, and ensure that students identify and develop personal interest. We use these 3 school board priorities at Sutherland to frame our decision making with regard to experiences that our students may have with regards to how we develop curriculum and instruction. We really use these as lenses to help guide our practices. So with that being said, we put together some faculty forums to look at our schedule, and we asked ourselves 2 questions around the schedule. How does our schedule support these board priorities, and how might our schedule actually be detracting from these board priorities? And so we had several conversations with staff. We held 3 faculty forums where staff came and talked about the schedule and what they perceived as needs and strengths and weaknesses of our schedule. And based off of those recommendations and conversations that I've had with some students and conversations that I've had with some parents regarding our schedule, there were some common themes that emerged. One of the themes that emerged is that some students were getting access to courses that all students would like to have access to. Some of these classes include our mechatronics class, world language classes, and then we have an elective called ELT that allows students to engage in project-based independent learning experiences where students really kind of pick something that they're passionate about and do a deep dive into studying and gaining a greater depth of knowledge regarding a specific area of interest. And some of our students were able to access those courses based off of the way that their schedule was built, and some students weren't because of some of the core requirements that our students had to meet. So that's one area where we really felt like we could increase opportunities for students to identify and develop their personal interests and to create a high expectation for all of our students. So with keeping that in mind, in addition to we also recognized that there were some class sizes that weren't entirely balanced, and we also are concerned about some of the levels that we offer for our core content classes. We took all of that feedback, and with those themes in mind, we developed and proposed some changes to the core schedule. So the next couple slides that I'm going to get into are going to really specifically talk about what that looks like for our rising 7th and 8th grade students. If you click on the link that says Rising 7th Grade Course Offerings on the website, you will see the schedule variations that are offered for our 7th grade students. Each student has 2 different schedule variations that they may choose from based on their math course. Each variation allows for students to take either semester or year-long courses. All algebra students are required to take at least one full block elective course so that students can engage in deeper learning experiences related to an area of interest. However, this year we are not requiring students to take the ELT course. We are providing students with a little bit more choice with regard to their year-long course. We're going to offer chorus and video broadcast, which is a new elective next year, that students may choose to take that rather than an ELT course. However, the ELT course will allow students an opportunity to engage in a deeper area of study. Right now, it's more of a general studies course for students, and what we're hoping to do is offer some very specific ELT courses, so that if we have students that are really passionate about music, we're hoping to offer maybe a music ELT or an arts ELT or a humanities ELT. So we're looking at allowing students either to do a general study ELT course or to do a deeper dive into a specific area of content that they have of interest. So while it only looks like they have 3 choices embedded in the ELT option, there are actually more choices than just ELT. We're hoping that this format will allow students to have a wide variety of experiences in their elective offerings to support the board priority of students identifying and developing their own personal interest. One thing that we do want to make sure that people understand is that while we have the potential to offer some new elective courses next year that haven't traditionally been offered at Sutherland in the past. The only way that can happen is if a minimum enrollment is met for those courses. We cannot run classes when only 5 students sign up for them. So what we're doing is we're gathering the data, seeing which classes are the most popular, and then trying to offer as many of those classes as possible so that kids are actually engaged in classes that they want to take. So that's one thing that I wanted just to make sure that everybody was aware of. So with regard to our core classes next year, we are going to offer English at the standard and the advanced level, and it will meet every other day. Math is going to be offered at the advanced level and Algebra 1 level. Math 7 advanced will meet every day, and Algebra 1 will meet every other day. We have learned some lessons from moving Algebra 1 to every other day this year, and so we're going to be looking to revamp CHOMP in a way to support students who have moved to the single block. Another thing that we're looking at doing is rearranging the pacing and the course alignment in which the concepts in Algebra 1 are being taught to support the students a little bit better. So based off of some of the lessons that we've learned from moving algebra to every day, we are going to make some adjustments to that curriculum to support students, and I'll get a little bit further in depth with some of the changes that we're looking to make with CHOMP starting later on in the presentation, and then more information regarding CHOMP will be coming out second semester. With regard to our 8th grade schedules, there are 3 different schedule variations, and each variation allows for students to have 3 period of elective courses in their schedule. Mechatronics is a class that is no longer going to be application based, and it will meet for a full block rather than a half block next year. Chorus will now be a full block class as well rather than a half block. All students are asked to take 1 year-long full block elective course for the same reason that we're asking the algebra students in 7th grade to take a year-long elective course, is so that they can get a deeper learning experience in an area that's related to personal interest. Again, we will only be able to run electives if a minimum enrollment is met, and we're going to use the data from the students' selection of electives to help us determine what classes we can offer next year. So we are opening up more courses to allow 8th graders access to them, as well as providing more elective opportunities for our 8th grade students. Core classes in the 8th grade for next year will meet every other day. Currently this year we have classes that meet every other day, and we have some classes that meet every day. Next year we're going to have all classes meet every other day. We are hoping that by doing this in math, that our Math 8 class sizes will be reduced to fewer than 15 students. So those students who are in Math 8 will receive some very specific targeted intervention to support their growth. Algebra 1, we are looking, based off of the information that we've learned from this year, we are looking at providing a Core Plus class for students who have difficulty switching from everyday math to every other day math. We are not identifying those students at this time because it is early in the school year, and we want to wait and see how students mature and develop their knowledge of mathematical concepts and understandings before we identify students for the Core Plus class. However, in late spring, we will start to generate that list, and as we do so, we will be reaching out individually to students and families who we feel would benefit from this experience. Geometry students are going to have geometry every other day, as has been in the past. Students will not be required to take the ELT course like they were this past year. However, they will have the choice to do so. And as I said, in the 7th grade, we are looking to create some more specialty ELT courses that allow kids to take, maybe an art or a humanities or a music ELT rather than just a general ELT. However, our students have indicated that they really enjoy the general ELT course, and so we will still keep that as an offering. English 8 is going to be offered at the advanced honors level every other day. It will be paired with a Core Plus class for students who we feel need targeted reading instruction, and we will generate that list, as we will the Algebra 1 Core Plus list, later in the spring, because we want to see how students develop and mature throughout the year. We will offer world language. It will be available to all students, and it will not be contingent on a student's English level next year. One of the things that we spent a significant amount of time talking about at the parent meeting was how are we going to put supports in place to ensure that the changes that we are making this year are successful. I have already begun to have conversations with central office staff, specifically our lead coach, Maureen Jensen, who is also the gifted and talented coordinator for Albemarle County Public Schools, and Jennifer Sublett, who is the professional director of professional learning for Albemarle County as well, about developing a professional learning plan to support teachers so that we can get the structures in place so that we will be successful at the very beginning of the school year next year. So we are going to start that professional learning in January of next year, and we are going to use professional learning communities as our mechanism to support this learning. Our teachers are already engaged in professional learning community work in the school, so the structure will not be different to them. However, the focus, we are going to start by building a strong foundation so that teachers are able to differentiate and meet our students' needs on an individual basis. in order for us to do that, we have to lay a strong foundational work, and we're hoping to start that, like I said, in January. The way we will do that is we will start by aligning our curriculum, which means we will start by looking at the standards that we are expected to teach our students and really looking at what our students need to be able to know, understand, and do. We will align our standards to a conceptual framework that allows students to access content and specific factual information and hinge it on a conceptual framework that allows them to deepen their understanding of complex ideas and concepts. Um, Once we align that curriculum, the next thing that we will do is build some common assessments so that we can engage in reflective conversations with teachers about how our students are doing, with specifically related to content acquisition and understanding of material. And so we will start by aligning our curriculum, and then we will develop assessments that are aligned to the curriculum so that we can engage in reflective conversations about what our students need. We're hoping over the summer that we can then begin to look at differentiation strategies and how to utilize formative assessments to group and regroup our students based on their needs. Some of our students come to our classes with a pretty significant understanding of some of the things that we're teaching. And so we want to use pre-assessment to gauge our students' knowledge of what we're doing before we get into the lesson so that we can be really efficient and targeted in the instruction that they receive. We want to make sure that students who are very high achieving and very successful, they're getting enrichment opportunities and they're able to deepen their learning rather than just accelerate their learning. So we want to make sure that we utilize pre-assessments in order to do that. In addition, we want to make sure that for students who may come to us with gaps in knowledge are getting the supports that they need in order to be successful as well. So we're hoping to over the summer look at some differentiation strategies and be ready in August to really look at how do I use these formative assessments to impact and inform my instruction. As I mentioned earlier in the presentation, we are also looking at utilizing a system that Walton is piloting this year as well, where we will be able to flexibly group our CHOMP groups so that if we have 5 or 6 students that are having difficulty, say, in algebra with slope, that we can get access to them pretty quickly and pretty easily in CHOMP so that we can provide them some extra instruction in that specific subject, and then they can go back to class and then they can be successful. So we're looking at trying to create more of a flexible structure for CHOMP so that we can give some pretty specific support. And like I said, hopefully after at the beginning of next semester or right after winter break, we'll be able to get a communication out to parents and students about what that might look like. So knowing that we're going to be making some changes starting next school year, we are already starting to design and develop professional learning experiences to support those changes so that teachers are ready in August to greet our students and really develop some high quality and thoughtful instruction and and assessments so that we can really gauge our students' needs and be responsive to their needs. Again, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me either through email or calling the school. I would be happy to discuss any of any concerns or anything that you need. I'm happy to meet with you all or talk to you all about that. Thanks.